Good evening, everyone. Time is 6:03 p.m., and I hereby call this meeting of the Student Senate to order. So we'll begin with a roll call. When I read your name, please say here or present. Martinez. Here. Gopa. Azan. Present. Everhart. Here. Atikos. Here. Halas. Here. Minshu. James. Present. Moisango. Verriger. Irving. Irving. Jones. Here. Cecil. Here. Eisma. Here. Amro. Here. Momini. Here. Larson. Oh, Wrights. Pursley. Here. And Schneider. Here. With that, we do have quorum for the evening. So we'll now move into the Pledge of Allegiance led by Speaker Cecil. And so with that, we'll move straight into tonight's Senate program, the Sexual Violence Prevention Education Program. Yes, thank you very much, Vice Speaker Everhart. If I could remind you to close or mostly close your laptops for this program, thank you. Yes, and that does include back tables as well. So this time is yours. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Carrie Geis, and I use pronouns she, her, hers, and I work in the Office of Student Wellness, and I focus in on violence prevention at a strategic level for the university. So I'm very, very excited to be here tonight. Part of my role on campus is exactly what my position description says, is violence prevention, focusing in specifically on sexual violence prevention. So I have been in the field for about 20 years. I started very young, and that my job started out as a hall director, in which I saw so many students of all identities impacted by sexual violence. And I wanted to really help folks move through that trauma and complete their college educations. I was lucky enough to be working on a college campus that had one of the foundational programs in the nation at the time. So I was able to learn a ton about sexual violence prevention and response. Wanted to shift then from response to prevention to help folks learn and grow what they can each individually do to prevent violence from happening. So I packed up my Corolla, went up to Oregon State University and started their sexual violence prevention program, and then was lucky enough to return to the Midwest and work at Iowa State University. So I am thrilled to be here tonight to talk with you all about what each one of you can do in violence prevention work. As we know, violence prevention work can be really hard to talk about, right? So we want to make sure that as we're talking tonight, that you are aware of all the things that are available to support you through that. So we have the QR code on the screen of the Cyclone Support Resources. So if things that we bring up tonight lead you to want to explore support options or reporting options, you know where to go to do that. Also, there's things that you can do in the moment this evening that can help you navigate through if you're finding it hard to listen for the duration of our conversation tonight. One of them can be if you just need to get up and go to the bathroom, please feel free. Also, if you need to doodle while you're listening, please feel free. Whatever is going to help you listen or not listen and be able to be in the room tonight for our conversation about sexual violence prevention. So I will turn it over to Detective Green.
Thanks. Good evening. I think this is the farthest I've ever stood from folks while talking with them in outreach, so if I forget to stand behind this, I am so sorry. But I will try to for accessibility purposes. My name's Natasha Green. I use she, her pronouns, and I work with ISU Police as the Engagement and Inclusion Officer. But the reason that I get to be here with you tonight and talking about this topic is, as we've said, around sexual violence and sexual violence prevention. In addition, I just wanted to add, I know that there's kind of some additional notice when folks have bio breaks or bio needs in these spaces during their program. So if you mentally disengage, this is my promise to you, we're not going to call on you. It's okay to do that for your own self-care. And I actually would like to ask that sometime before the screen goes down, that everyone, if it's safe for them to do so, hover over the QR code. That helps make sure that it's accessible for anyone who might need that resource in this space. We can wait till after the program so you aren't breaking any of your student government rules, but that helps make sure that it's accessible to everyone. Before I worked at ISU, I actually was a student here, and while I was a student here, I saw firsthand the impacts that sexual violence had on my friends, my community, and on the sense of belonging that we were trying to build as students together. And while I was here, I had the opportunity to volunteer at a local nonprofit, Access, and started serving as a advocate for survivors, really supporting them alongside their process, whatever that looked like. And in those 5 years, I learned that there were really awesome people trying to do what they could, and that there were a lot of education gaps in how best to support someone experiencing harm, what the resources look like, what the system looks like. And when there are gaps in knowledge, it's really hard to support folks in the ways we need. During my time as an advocate, I also realized that we could do with having more trauma-informed lenses in the police department, and I saw that ISU Police tended to do that, so I applied, and now I'm an officer and support folks who've experienced this kind of harm from the officer side of things. That's not really what we're here to talk about tonight, although that's a portion of that. The reason I do this work is because it fills my cup to work with folks who are so engaged in preventing harm from happening in our communities and working to actively address harm when it does occur so that healing can also occur. So that's why we're here tonight and why it's us in front of you, in case that was a question mark in some people's minds. Really not for Carrie's role, more mine. But I wanted to answer that question mark for you all, and why we're here tonight with you. I forgot to mention it earlier, but I think I haven't done the math on how long I've been in the field for a while, and I really don't want to do math in front of you all. I think 12 to 14 years-ish that I've been in the field doing this work as well. I hand it over to Carrie.
So here's the meat and potatoes of what we're talking to you about tonight, right? ISU, you're here at a super exciting time because we are on the cusp of really expanding our education and knowledge and training and response services around sexual violence prevention and response, right? So many of you, show of hands, are familiar with Green Dot, right? So we've got a great foundation. Folks are really aware of the Green Dot Bystander Intervention Program. So that's a great foundation. However, folks often look at Green Dot as it does everything. Well, that's not true. Green Dot does what it does, bystander education, exceptionally well. It's been researched, it's been vetted. We have both anecdotal and quantifiable evidence that it impacts people's ability to intervene in a situation. However, we've noticed that there's gaps right now. There's ways that we need to grow as an institution and as student leaders for learning about other areas of sexual violence prevention. Green Dot has done a phenomenal job about getting us talking more about it, learning more about it through a bystander lens. But now we need to grow, right? So we need to grow in the area of consent. Many of us, myself included, didn't receive any consent education. What does that mean? What does that entail? What does that look like on a daily basis for ourselves? So we need that education. So we wanted to start off with saying kudos to you all to being aware of Green Dot, to being aware of the bystander intervention. And now let's build off of that, because the Green Dot curriculum doesn't reference and doesn't educate consent education, right? It doesn't cover that at all, but oftentimes we just assume that it does, but we want to make sure that we're clarifying tonight that it doesn't. It's a great component to a comprehensive plan that we are developing for education. So when we need to move forward, one of the first places that we're going to look at is educating on consent. We've developed, in conjunction with Detective Green and another professional within the Student Health and Wellness Unit, a curriculum called Green Flags that is focused in on consent education that will be building out within the community. So there's things in place already for that consent education.
The next area of opportunity or area for growth for us that we've identified, along with working alongside students to kind of figure out where our opportunities for growth are, is rape myths and misunderstandings around sexual violence and how that happens. If we have been fed through media, through well-intentioned but ill-informed folks that are trying to prevent harm but really don't necessarily know how that harm is occurring, then we don't have the tools to really talk about these things in the really deep and complex ways we need to. And that's a barrier to us having meaningful change and conversations. And so addressing rape myths. Another show of hands, how many of you were told by a parent or guardian or loved one before you came here, never walk alone at night or only walk with friends or others? I'm noticing, for those who aren't able to look around the room, that a lot of us got that messaging, and even more so that the breakdown of who got that messaging sometimes falls within certain categories of folks or experiences. And the reality is, we want folks to have information about how sexual violence actually happens, because it has nothing to do with walking alone or a list of shoulds or should nots for somebody to not experience harm. And so that's one of the pieces we want to build a more robust understanding around so that you all can support each other. And that kind of leads into the kind of last focus for the evening on what we would love to get to learn alongside you all as student leaders, and that is how to best support survivors. We know, unfortunately for many of us, the impact that these kinds of harm can have on an individual and on communities, on friend groups, on organizations, on circles of support. And so we want folks to have the tools and resources to help them understand what their role is as a friend or a support person, and what parts of that they don't have to worry about, that there are professionals that they can refer to so they can focus on being that friend or being that supportive student leader in an organization. And we know that our students want that information, because I have conversations with so many of you almost daily about how to best support survivors. Clearly, it's a desire for students to learn more, and we are more than happy to meet you all with that information and learn together. With that, we want to thank you for your time today. Thank you for your openness to talking more about this and how student government and other leaders could work together to learn more and show campus how to be fully engaged in this topic in ways that supports all our fellow Cyclones and learning more and being in a safer and more caring community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh. And thank you. If you want to stay up there for just one moment, if you'd like an opportunity for questions, you can have that.
I just couldn't remember where we stood for it.
Yes, absolutely. And so we'll start with Senator James.
Yeah, so my first question is, do you think you can send at least this slide to it, just in case someone might not be able to access or have a good visual for the QR code?
Yes, we would love to, and we will work with your very kind tech person, Cecil, to see how that happens. Does that sound okay? Is that all right with you? Okay, thank you.
My next question is, I really like the idea of green flag. My first question is, a lot of people are coming from different states and different countries who have varying consent laws. Is green flag based specifically on just federal perspective, or is it just Iowa State? Because obviously it would be within Iowa State's legislation.
That's an amazing, great question. We have focused in on pulling highlights from OEO or ISU's definition of consent. So, but we talk about it within the context of when you're in the ISU community, here's some of the principles for consent that we are working towards, right? Here's the expectations around consent. So we do base it on OEO, Office of Equal Opportunity, and ISU's definition of consent, but we set it within the contextual framework of principles that are universal.
Right. And then my next question, kind of building off of that, is a lot of the education, especially for Green Dot, has been focused within Greek communities. Are you seeing that as another pilot program for this Green Flag initiative within the student body, or what strategies do you have?
That's an excellent question that's still in development. So we just received approval for the program, so we haven't mapped out the layout quite yet.
Thank you. And then I guess my last question, because, so for the survivor support, I think an issue that I see is, are you guys relying on city resources, or are you looking at investing in student, like on campus? Because for students who are international or out of state who might not have vehicles, it might be hard. Yeah, I know a lot of things have moved online. They might not have access just physically being able to get there.
Sure. Yes. Really, either of us could, and we often speak for each other, so either would be fine. That's a great question as well. Access the local service provider that has what's called legal privilege. It means that they can't be requested to testify even in court, so the highest level of confidentiality that exists in the state of Iowa. They serve folks off campus and on campus, but they come to where folks can best get to them. So they are aware of addressing accessibility needs, and oftentimes are on campus. They have office hours on campus as well. And the other forms of survivor support, one of the steps in that model is referring, and we cover a variety of confidential and non-confidential campus resources, as well as how to know what is confidential or is not confidential, so that survivors know that before disclosing anything.
Yeah, and then I actually did have one more. On the basis of like the myths, I know obviously I've been raised for a very long time about like things that I had to avoid as a woman, but how do you like navigate that curriculum with it's so multifaceted of people who might not even know like U.S. culture, people who don't know Iowan culture if they're coming from a different coast? And is that again going to be focused within the ideology of an ISU student?
That's a great question. Do you want me to start, and then you can add in the pieces I missed? I already get to do some of this work within our international student community when we talk to the International First Year Experience Seminar and in other spaces. And really when we're talking about those pieces of it, it's more important to me to talk about the realities of what sexual violence looks like, so that most people experience harm by somebody they knew and had some level of trust with, things like that. And so then if they haven't already absorbed some of those myths, that's awesome, right? There's less to unlearn. But if they have learned some things that are less accurate, then they have the opportunity to unlearn those. And I do think that us really staying centered on the diverse experiences of our students is going to be crucial in making sure this education is impactful for all of our students. So I appreciate you asking. Carrie, would you? Okay.
I guess the last thing I want to say is thank you guys for coming and thanks for your service.
Thank you. Thank you for your great questions. I don't know.
I think we have one more speaker, Cecil.
So this is kind of on the survivor support side, and I just have one question. But there are a lot of resources on campus that just by the like title of the resource or what they are, individuals feel that may not be the resource for them, even though it could be. Is there any like motion towards maybe like looking at different ways to refer to places, or how to get students informed that that place could help you, even though it, like the title of the center may not sound like it?
Yeah. Do you want me to start, or you want to? Yeah, I would love for that.
Otherwise I'll lose it.
Nope, I love that.
If I don't share it now, it will be gone. That's why I think it's so effective that we're bringing the proposal or resolution, that I don't know the proper terminology, to you all tonight, because the most effective referral is going to be from someone that someone trusts. Tasha and I can give referrals all day long, but if we don't already have a personal relationship with that person, it's not as effective. So by you all getting that education and leading the way about how to give an effective referral, you can do that within your own sphere of influence and then debunk those myths of here are the resources that are available for you, and the person's going to know that they have access to them because you're sharing it with them directly. Does that make sense? Like, it's an opportunity for you all to learn it and then spread that information out to your spheres of influence and debunk some of those myths that those resources aren't applicable to certain folks.
All right, and so with that, are there any further questions or comments for this program? Seeing none, once again, oh,
Can I say a thank
of course,
you real
yes.
quick? I just wanted to say thank you because I know, because of the amount of folks that this impacts, the amount of impact it could even have for us to talk about this tonight. And so I just really thank you all for your attention and for being in the space with us and for whatever level of energy that took for you. And so I'd ask that all of you, not just folks this impacts personally, but all of you, do something for yourselves later tonight, because these things are hard to talk about, to think about, and they have an impact on our mental health. And so doing something at whatever hour of day you finally get to think about yourself today, please do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. And so with that, we'll move into open forum. Open forum shall serve as an opportunity for students to speak about any issues relevant to the student body. If there's anyone here tonight for open forum, I would ask that you approach the podium at this time. Seeing none, we'll move into adopting this evening's agenda. Is there a motion to do so? Awesome. Senator Schneider, excuse me.
I move to amend the agenda and move 2023-3-009 SG to the top of tonight's agenda.
Sorry, that was item 009 SG. All right, so it's been moved to add item 009 SG to the top of this evening's agenda. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the amendment carries. So we're now back on the agenda as a whole. Are there any further amendments or motion to adopt? Moved and seconded to adopt this evening's agenda. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, the agenda is approved. And so we'll move into the approval of the previous Senate minutes. Is there a motion to do so? I'm going to take one of those as a second. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the previous minutes. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing none, those minutes are approved. And so we'll move into committee reports, starting with the Rules Committee and Speaker Cecil.
Rules Committee met last night and right before this meeting. Right before this meeting, we saw the nominee for Director of IT. They seem interested and like someone that would be actively involved in our IT stuff. So I think it'd be great to work with them. I've been doing some IT stuff, so I will probably communicate with them a decent amount. But we sent them favorably to Senate, and then we also discussed the bylaws. They are recombined with the rules of the legislature, but the formatting is awful, so they haven't been published yet because they're really hard to read. They will be by the end of this week, probably. And then next week I won't be here because I have exams. And we have 2 people up for rules because we have 1 seat open. We will look to waive a bylaw for a second, as I'm currently the only person with rules experience, and sometimes it'd be really nice to have someone else to help explain things. So that's what rules has.
So with that, the floor is open for questions for the Rules Committee. Seeing none, we'll move over to the Finance Committee.
Hi, everyone. You'll see a couple finance bills tonight, most of which are on first read. A couple we have to waive first read on, and then one we'll see Rodeo Club pretty soon here. Finance Committee met yesterday, really good meetings, and then we're wrapping up our annual allocation process, so couldn't be happier about how that's gone so far.
Are there any questions for Finance?
More thing. For Rodeo Club, just to clear up any confusion, it's from our events account, not our Senate discretionary or special projects. Events account is not bound by our priorities and criteria document as outlined in the bylaws.
So seeing no finance questions, Senator Azan.
So what's the criteria to figure out or decide that we're gonna use the events funding?
If it's
For
outlined,
club.
it's outlined in the bylaws. We went over it earlier, but it says the event has to be free for all students. It has to be social in nature, and then there's a couple and open to the general public as well. There's a couple other stipulations in there.
So any club is eligible to apply funding through events
Yeah,
account?
that's as long as it's an event, yes, and meets our criteria. Yeah, they can.
Awesome, thank you. I yield.
So with that, any further questions or discussion regarding the Finance Committee? Seeing none, we'll move over to PR.
All right. Hey, y'all. So we didn't have a traditional meeting this week. Instead, recorded what should hopefully be the first episode of our podcast with Shane, our election commissioner, about kind of the election process and everything. Hoping to have that go out next week before or day of the start of voting, so that way it's informative to viewers. And then looking to do one with our current president and vice president, hopefully later this week. And then we have a new opportunity for outreach credits for those of you who don't really have all of yours yet. So we are doing Senate recaps as posts instead of reels, just because they're a bit more uniform, they're cleaner, easier to read. Not everyone listens to the recap reels. So each senator, I'll have Eric put something in the MIS as a sign up. Each week, if you want to sign up, literally all you have to do, you sit through these meetings anyways, you'll just make a bullet point of people that were sat to different seats, legislation that passed, and I'll send the full criteria of like what needs to be included in there, but it's literally just a little list of bullet points and it counts as an outreach credit. You can do one per semester, but that way it takes away something for you to do. And then, yes, we got our new IT, or hopefully a new director of IT tonight. And then I've been working with our new director of marketing to get a new meeting set up for everything to get transferred over to him to start taking care of. That's it for me.
All right, and so with that, the floor is open, starting with Senator Azan.
I did the Senate recap last semester and I could not even see it right now. Can you talk about this? What's the criteria of making a decision whether you're gonna include it or not?
That one in particular had been a little bit too lengthy and we were having issues uploading it on the Instagram. So that one was there. So that's why we switched from, we had too many issues with our reels last semester, either being too lengthy or not uploading correctly. This way posts are just nice, clean, and uniform.
But you are the one who actually made it, right?
Yes, it was a video on the phone, but it didn't translate correctly to an Instagram reel.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Gopa.
Did you look at the numbers on the podcast that student government did last year? Is it the most effective way to reach out to students?
I know it's low, but it was what was asked of me of our president this year, so it was kind of in my packet to start with as my cabinet responsibility. So we thought we would try doing shorter episodes this year. Last year they were about an hour to hour and a half, so these ones should be 20 to 25 minutes. I thought give it a shot, see how it goes. We don't have much left of this semester, so if it doesn't go great, we'll come up with something for next year. But hoping for shorter episodes means better engagement.
Awesome. Verriger.
Hi, were you looking to do more like publicity surrounding the podcast? Because I personally haven't heard of anything surrounding the podcast except for in student government, and I feel like a lot of people probably haven't either. So is there anything you're looking to like get it out there more?
That's something I'll be coordinating with our new director of marketing. We wanted to hold off publicizing it on our Instagram or anything until we knew for sure when the episodes would be starting. And then kind of with, again, our new director of marketing and then interest from the senators sat in the committee, we were able to get the ball rolling. So we wanted to wait until we got them recorded first. But now that we do, we're going to work on trying to publicize it, especially on our Instagram, but also brainstorming other ways to get it out there. But we haven't done any yet this year, so that's why it hasn't been heard about.
Thank you.
So with that, are there any further questions for PR? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Idea Committee.
So, IDEA committee met a week ago. We're meeting again this Friday. We're still trying to find a concrete date for the IDEA town hall, but we do have a really good idea of who our facilitators are going to be. We're trying to work around their schedule, hopefully organize a town hall after spring break. We're also trying to have more than just a town hall and get people to actually like participate in it and get Color of Love involved so that we have like a better conversation. We're also trying to get some freebies for the town hall so people actually have like something to come for. But yeah, that's about it.
So with that, are there any questions for the IDEA committee? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to SI. Is there a designated representative tonight from SI? Seeing none, I'll ask the same question about local affairs. Sustainability. Senator Pursley.
Hi, everyone. We met today in Sustainability Committee. We were really excited about Sustainapalooza yesterday, so thanks to everyone who came out and visited. It was really fun and successful. And we're continuing to work on our One Sustainable Iowa Conference. The link to sign up and go is going to come out on March 1st, so be on the lookout for that.
All right, and so the floor is open for any questions for sustainability. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to health and wellness.
Hi, guys. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to Natasha and Carrie for coming out tonight and giving that amazing program. I've been working with them really closely on the proposal that we're going to see tonight shortly. And, you know, I will be up at the podium for any questions. But, yeah, this is an issue I'm really passionate about. And I'm just really happy that they were able to be here tonight and that you guys were all so attentive. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Are there any questions for health and wellness? Seeing none, is there a representative tonight from legislative ambassadors? All right, seeing none, we'll move into that other category. This is an opportunity for any senators to share updates about a committee that otherwise isn't represented on tonight's agenda. Seeing no updates, we'll move on to comments from the judicial branch.
Hey everyone, had a bit of some changes in judicial branch recently. We had a meeting this last Thursday. I was confirmed as Chief Justice, and then Tiffany has taken over the role of pro tempore for the court. We had a super productive meeting on Thursday. Really got the ball rolling on lots of our projects we've been kind of dabbling in. So our mock trial is going to be taking place tentatively the first week after spring break. So I'll be sending something out in the MIS or in the teams to kind of get some volunteers for that, kind of get some interaction between Senate, Cabinet to work for the mock trials and stuff like that. If you have any interest in working in the mock trial, please feel free to reach out to me. And then you don't have to have any kind of experience with that to be able to help. We take anyone we can get. So that's going to be something really exciting that we're looking forward to soon. That's it.
So with that, are there any questions for the court? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to comments from our advisor.
Hi, everyone. So it's been a busy couple weeks. I've been working a lot on elections. I think the final version of the ballot is ready to go, so I'm excited about that. And I know Brad's been working really closely on allocations. So, you know, we have about a month left in this session. So if there are things that you still want to accomplish and you need some help, please come and talk with me about those. What else was I going to say? I don't know. I guess just, I also want to thank you for your attention tonight during the program. I think it's a really important thing to talk about. And if you need resources and you want someone to talk to, you're welcome to come and talk to me as well.
Are there any questions for our advisor? Seeing no questions, we'll wrap up with comments from the executive branch.
Hello, everyone. I don't have a whole lot to share tonight, so I'm just going to start out. Christine just mentioned we had just over a month left in our current terms. I just did a quick count. We have 6 weeks left, including spring break. So that means that we have 4 meetings of Senate left. So be sure if there are any projects you're working on to make sure that you're really getting them in the roll and get them here finished up soon in case there's any bills that need to be seen, because our positions are not guaranteed for the next terms. So just make sure you're keeping that in mind in case there's anything you really want to make sure that you're able to accomplish during your current role. But enough of that. So moving into my last couple announcements. The first one is inauguration is going to be on April 9th. There will be RSVPs going out here later this week for you all to be able to respond to. You'll have 2 to 3 weeks. There will be an end date in there telling you when you need to have them done. Please RSVP, or else I will come and hunt you down so I can know if you're coming or not, because we have to get the numbers to ISU dining, catering, so we can make sure that we have enough food for everybody and make sure that you have to eat what you want. So April 9th, it's going to be in the Great Hall, semi-formal attire. It's going to be a great time, some awards, good food, some good conversation. Be sure to mark that on your calendars. But then my final announcement is there is an open forum next week for the director of the Office of Equal Opportunity. So right now we currently have an interim director for the Office of Equal Opportunity, and we have one candidate on the table, and they really want to make sure that they are a good quality candidate before we give them an affirmative yes to the role. So they're having an open forum that's open for all students to attend. So I want to publicize that right now, really encourage you all to make sure to mark it on your calendars. It is on Wednesday, March 6th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the Memorial Union room 3512. I'll send a reminder too in the Teams so you all can be sure to be reminded to attend. But I believe that's all that I have right now. But if there's anything I missed, feel free to reach out and ask me about it later.
So with that, are there any questions for the executive branch? Seeing no questions, we'll move into the business of this evening, starting with External Matter 2023-3-002SO, prioritizing sexual violence prevention education with Senator Schneider.
I move to waive first read on this bill due to the fact that our speakers are here tonight and able to present and answer any questions.
Moved and seconded to waive first read on item 002. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objection, first read shall be waived, and so we're now back on the item on second read.
And with that, I yield my time to Director Spahn.
Okay, hi everybody. Surprisingly, I have not been up here since I was confirmed, so this this is a little weird. But anyway, so I'm here to talk tonight about the proposal I've written to incorporate sexual violence prevention education into this organization and hopefully other student organizations as well. So if there are any senators that didn't get a chance to read over my proposal, the thing I just really wanted to highlight tonight is that this issue is hugely important to me and a lot of students on campus. When I had my meeting with President Holliday and Vice President Margaret at the beginning of the term, this was the issue that all three of us wanted to do work on the most in the area of health and wellness. And so I'm really excited to be standing before you tonight, having done this initial step of writing this proposal. And the phase one of the action items that we want to do, I just want to share really quick. So the first thing we want to do is offer a retreat focused on peer-to-peer discussion about sexual violence prevention for student organizations sponsored by student government and also facilitated by on-campus partners. So that would include Detective Green and Carrie, who you heard from tonight. And then the second one would be to revisit the language used in the timely warning emails from the Department of Public Safety and explore the possibility of student input. I actually found out at the ISUPD Advisory Board meeting a couple days ago that the original language that is used in those emails that all of us receive was actually, they had help with that from a previous student government, to see what kind of language they actually want to include in that. But from focus groups I've had with my committee and other students, normally what happens is, you get those emails and you scroll right down to where it happened and when. But under that is a lot of great resources and great information. So I think it would be good to revisit that as a student government to see how we can get those resources out to more students, since not a lot of students are looking at it at the moment. So I think from the proposal, that's all I wanted to share up here for now. But if anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer them.
All All right, and so with that, the floor is open, starting with Senator James.
Yeah, I guess my first question is there a reason that the partners aren't explicitly labeled, and it's just like as a general partners?
No, there really isn't a reason for that. Obviously I mentioned Carrie and Detective Green as partners, but I think the reason that maybe it would appear vague is that we don't necessarily know everybody who's going to be helping us out with this yet. There are a lot of departments and organizations involved with this issue on campus, including Equal Opportunity, other members of ISUPD. So that is kind of what was meant by the on-campus partners.
Got it. And then my next question is, obviously I see that we're going to be helping fund the initial retreat. That's part of phase 1. But for phase 2, when it becomes like broader educational programs, will we have people to help fund it, or will this be solely a student government funded process?
Yeah, that is something that we will have to look into. I don't know about necessarily the funding of the educational sessions right now. I think what is more intended by it is that student government is setting the example as the representatives of students. We're going to have the first one. We are hopefully saying tonight that this is an issue that is important to us. We are having these educational sessions, and the future director of health and wellness, maybe some senators in the next term, et cetera, are going to continue this initiative, do work to connect with student organizations, and to have this training in more spaces, essentially.
I understand. So hopefully, I think it's open enough that it can go either way. My only concern is, how do I say this in a nice way? Obviously, I want student government to support this, but at the same time, I feel like there are on-campus resources, so I don't want this to become an avenue that becomes a solely student government funded thing, just due to it is a shared responsibility between us and the organizers of this campus that are the staff here.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think the funding part of that is maybe what is unclear. I am not intentionally saying anything about funding in this proposal because I do not have that information. I'm saying things about supporting it as a government body.
Yeah, I think then if we want to take it out of that perspective, possibly then saying, I don't know, figure out that word for organizations sponsored by student government, because that does suggest financial support of student government. And again, I don't want to sound like I don't want to financially support this. I just want it to be open for like all partners to be engaged, and also not to make it closed down that it's just on student government. Just because like unless we have it as like a contractual thing, where we like promise that, like how we do it with supporting SHOP and other organizations like that, I think that's my concern there. I'll just end there, and then I have something else.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know if you had a response to that. I guess my other point is, obviously, I think it's really good that we are focusing on student education. And going by reading what the description is, it is kind of very student-centered. But especially for that survivor support, is there any consideration of including faculty or advisors into this education? Just because, like, students might go to them, and if they don't have that training, I know they get Green Dot training, they might not be able to help. Like, they might be out of water for those situations.
Absolutely, yeah, and we hope to expand that. I think the purpose of this, student government related proposal is to focus on the students, but there is currently a university-wide plan being made to include those other areas like professors and advisors. That is set to come out in a couple months. It's a campus-wide, people from all over campus is what I'm trying to say, contributing to this plan, involving all people on campus, professors, advisors, et cetera. There is initiatives at the university level, and the purpose of this proposal is more so to build off of that and partner with it, essentially. So we are coming from the student lens to offer peer-to-peer support. And, as I outlined in the plan, as one of the objectives, the third objective is to also support that university level change, which would involve those faculty, professors, and advisors.
Got it. And then just so I know on time, so I know how many. How much more time do I have to speak?
I'm going to be honest, I was not timing you,
Oh.
but if you can kind of loosely keep it to that 5 minutes, that'd be fantastic.
All right, I just have 2 more questions, so I apologize if I go a little on. My next question is just building on the idea of going with the general university plan. Is that where the support of, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find your name right now. How do you pronounce it? The Violence Prevention Strategy Manager, is that who you talked to get that insight on the university-wide plan? So you can build upon it, or like, how did you get that information so it synthesizes?
How did I get the information about the university plan? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
like,
asking?
did you talk to people who are in the plan, like in the rooms to plan that?
I am
so
on
that-
the planning team for that.
Oh,
so
apologies. I thought you
that's-
said, when you said it was university-wide, I thought that was just like faculty.
Nope. So they have student representation on that board. I am on that, and also the GPSS wellness director, Kimia, is on that board as well.
Yeah, and then my final question is just to explain like what the purpose of the proposal is. This kind of similar to when we had that order earlier about like ordering to help say that student government was for to educate about like safe crosswalks, or is this us actually like starting a plan? Does that make sense? Like, is this just us just saying this is our stance and we are hoping to continue it and we will tell and we are incentivizing, or is this us like we're doing it?
It's more of a incentivizing thing because the time left in the term is so short.
Yeah.
My purpose in bringing this proposal in front of the Senate was to hopefully gain visibility and gain support on an issue that, as the Director of Health and Wellness, I have been passionate about working on, and that other members of Cabinet were passionate about working on. So I really just wanted to share it with the Senate, get your opinions, answer your questions. And so it was more of an issue that all of student government, we are declaring that we are prioritizing it, but it's more of a purpose of incentivizing it, not ordering anybody in particular to do anything.
Got it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
I yield.
Moving over then to Senator Azan.
First of all, I'm going to start by saying it's a great proposal, but there are certain things that I will want to talk about, especially kind of echo what Senator Jins just mentioned, because the proposal did talk about retreat, and I'm concerned about that thing and feel like this is not a complete proposal for as it is right now, because we cannot, that's my opinion, again, it's again open for discussion. My major concern will be that we cannot support something without having a number on it, on the file. If a retreat requires money, then it will be better to have a cap that how much we can invest or how much we are looking for the, for the retreat part, because if it requires money, then my major concern will be, okay, how much we are talking, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, and which account are we talking? And if we can have a better picture on that sense, then we can, move forward with that proposal. With that, I yield.
Speaker Cecil.
So my name is on this resolution, so I'm in support of it. But when we refer to something as something that we sponsor, that doesn't mean that we're assigning a value or saying we get 100%. That just means that we want to support this and we are willing to put financial backing on that. But it doesn't mean that if there is a retreat, that's our burden 100%. We can go to other places, we can share the cost. And I think that's the responsibility of a future Senate, if this plan were put into action, to approve those costs. So I don't think that's a relevant concern for this item, because it is just saying like, yes, we want to be there, we want to support this, we want this to be an option, and future Senates approve those expenditures as needed. And I think that's how this would be handled and how it should be handled. So,
Senator Azan.
Just going to comment on this. There's a precedent in Senate when Senator Larson actually presented a bill, and Senator Eddie Mahoney mentioned about the cost of certain things. We cannot have a contract, or we cannot commit something without having a number on the file, on the report. That's my major concern. If we are talking about anything that we're going to support financially, we should be able to know how much are we talking. And that's my major concern. We cannot just blindly say that, oh, we're going to support financially without having the exact number that we are referring. And with that, I motion to table this bill until further review, and with the proper number of funding, we can move further with that. Motion to table this bill, if anyone want to second this.
Moved and seconded to table this bill. Are there any objections to doing so? All right, and so I'll give you an opportunity to withdraw, or we can enter a discussion on the motion to table.
Discussion.
All right, and so the floor is open, starting with Vice Speaker Everhart.
So, I mean, I don't think we should table this simply because, we have our speakers here tonight. They wanted to see how this proposal would go over. And I understand your concerns about, setting a precedent of specifically like the flagpole bill that we had seen a couple semesters or last semester. However, the difference between that is that's a definitive act, whereas this is a proposal and the bill itself is a resolution, meaning the resolution is just to essentially get a whole opinion of the governing body itself. This is simply to say, yes, we are in favor of moving forward with an action plan. So, I mean, I would entertain maybe making amendments rather than tabling the bill completely, just because, this is something that's very important and we need to see this implemented on campus.
Speaker Cecil.
Hang on, I need to gather my thoughts. Yeah, I think making an amendment on this would make sense, but again, I don't think this ties us to any financial burden in any way. This is us showing our support and showing that we are in favor of this proposal, but any future action on the proposal will have to come through this body or finance committee, which really means we're not assigning a value to anything. There's not any financial burden that we're promised to. If finance committee or the Senate in the future feels it's not something we should fund, they would be allowed to say no and just zero fund whatever they feel. And there's not any wording in this that I feel is tying us to the financial aspect of that. And I don't really see how that's the focus, because there's a lot more to this. And I think us pledging our support on that is a really good thing that we should do tonight. So I yield.
Senator Jones.
I yield my time to our speakers.
I'll just make it really concise. I would encourage you not to let the financial implications impact you tabling it tonight. I would encourage you to continue the discussion. I know both the Student Health and Wellness Unit and ISU PD would want to continue the communication about funding. So maybe an amendment for what cap you want to put on spending. If finances are a concern, I understand that. I appreciate your financial responsibility. I really very much do. So I would encourage an amendment around that, but I just wanted you to have the knowledge that both our offices are extremely supportive of this topic and have already demonstrated financial support, and I'm confident they will continue to do so. I give it back to you.
Senator Pursley.
I also just want to remind everyone that in student government, one of our main priorities is the students and their needs, and it has been demonstrated to us that sexual assault resources are one of the biggest needs that students need right now. And so I think it would be really beneficial and important for us to put out there that we are supporting our students and that we are here for our constituents.
Senator Azan.
Okay, I want to clarify myself. I'm in favor of this bill. This is really good bill. It's a great topic to have, say it loud, and advertise and, share the resources to all the student body. So the concern that I had was sponsored by student government. The word sponsor only by student government in the retreat part, and just sponsoring without financial agreement, it's okay. but making maybe like amendment of having something along the lines that it will be reviewed further by Senate if there's a specific budget or like a specific amount that they're gonna ask. That might be a better way to say it, that we can actually go back again and review the finances. Yeah. But overall, this is a great bill, and I'm open for the amendments option instead of tabling it. So, yeah, I yield.
Senator Martinez.
To address Senator Azan's concerns, at least this is my understanding. If I have it wrong, please someone correct me. But it's for the retreat. If they were to come and ask, they still will have to ask for the what they want from student government, and that alone is a separate bill that would come for us in the future. As this stands right now, that's how that would work. So I see your concern. I think it's worthwhile talking about. But passing it as it is right now is okay, at least from my understanding how you're concerned, because they will still have to come back and ask for this funding, even if we pass it as it is right now. And then we can have a discussion, and it'll have to make its way through finance and then up through Senate. So it would be a completely separate thing. Now, I'm in favor of going forward with this tonight.
Speaker Cecil.
Yeah, so overall, adding lines about like reviewing by Senate would be redundant with our current rules, just because they already established that for a document such as this. And we have that in a few different ways. I can't think of one right now, but it's not an uncommon practice to say that we would be willing to help and then be like maybe not fund certain portions because they're not something that we want to support at a later date. And this just like guarantees that there is a path for them, for us to financially support it. But with that, I called a question on tabling this bill.
It's been moved and seconded to end discussion on the motion to table. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, we'll move into a vote on the motion to table. And yes, so UC has been called for to unanimously table the bill. Are there objections to doing so? It's been objected to, and so we'll move into a vote on this. And so as a reminder, yes to table, no to continue discussion, or you may, of course, abstain. Let's just do this as a placard vote, and so I'll give you an opportunity to indicate which of those three choices you would like to vote for. Here, one moment, please. Yes, so yes to table, no to continue discussion tonight. So if you are in favor of tabling, that's a yes. Please raise your placard at this time. Those opposed? All right, and those who wish to abstain? All right, and so with a motion of 0 to 18 to 0, the motion to table fails, and so we're now back on the motion as a whole, starting with Senator James.
So I just want to once again, because I feel like I kind of made myself look like a bad guy, I do fully support this education system, and I am really glad that we are making these moves. I think it was that misunderstanding that I thought the order meant that we had made that promise. I mean, it was more than just, that it would, I don't know how to say it, but like, that it was more than just us being like, we are dedicated to this change and not making any, I don't know how to say, solid commitments in any of the particulars of any of this. So I do support this now that I got that explanation. I appreciate people informing me about that.
Yeah, so just regarding like the wording of sponsored by student government for the retreat, sponsorships can look, very different. That doesn't just necessarily mean financial compensation. That can just be us supporting supporting verbally, like it doesn't necessarily mean a fiscal responsibility to pay for the retreat as a whole. So, I mean, I'm going to be quite honest, I don't really think that needs to be amended. But also, you know, a lot of times some of the resources and programs that we see on campus, they start in student government, and we may initially pay for a retreat, but that doesn't mean that, you know, we can't pass that off to a different department, a different program, a different college, or not a different college, but a different program within the university. We see that happen very often, that another program or another department just kind of takes over whatever, you know, specific initiative goes through student government. So I think that this, you know, we see a lot of potential for growth within this proposal, and I'm 100% in favor for it. I hope you are all as well, but with that, I yield.
Senator Verriger.
I just had a quick question for the speaker. I just saw underneath the objectives of proposal, you said provide an educational framework, and I was wondering if that was going to tie into the sexual assault and prevention coursework that they already provide for incoming students as trainings. Is that going to be something that'll tie into that at all, or is it going to be something completely different?
Great question. So within this proposal, we are referring to something completely different, almost as like a new training, focusing on like the 5 areas that I have listed in the proposal as examples of educational categories that we can and we will address in an education like this. But that is an overall goal to incorporate more an encompassed framework for university level educational initiatives like those courses. And I think the reason that we are taking this route with it through a student organization lens is because as we know with a lot of those university that's not what I meant to say at all. University courses, they are not required, is what I meant to say. And so we think you may be approaching it from a peer-to-peer lens, talking to student leaders about it, getting their feedback, starting doing it that way in that lens is we're just trying to aim at tackling it from another perspective, from another angle, while also supporting, university initiatives to incorporate this more. In university, things like orientation classes, online modules through Canvas, etc. So.
Thank you.
And so it's been moved and seconded to end discussion. At this time, are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, closing comments, Senator Schneider. Seeing no closing comments, we'll move into a vote. UC has been called for. Are there any objections to passing this motion by way of unanimous consent? Seeing no objection, the motion carries. And so with that, we'll move into item 2023-3- oh. Yes. Is there a second? Moved and seconded to rearrange the agenda so that item 002 SE is considered next. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, the amendment carries. And so we're now on that item 002 SE, confirming a Director of Information Technology with Speaker Cecil.
So this person was sent favorably by rules, and I'll leave it up to them.
Hey everyone, I'm quickly going to introduce myself. My name's Isha Gargil, and I'm a sophomore majoring in computer science here. I'm very excited to be here to be voted on for the Director of IT. I think I'm good for this position because of the relevant experience that I have and also my major. As a computer science major, I'm required to take a number of courses which would help me with the job requirements for this position. For example, right now I'm taking a course for web development, which would really help me in building the website for student government. Other than that, I've also previously worked for IT for the university, and I think I learned a lot from that, which would help me as well. I think one of the first few things I would do if I were to be confirmed as director of IT is migrating the website from WordPress to Drupal, and just ensuring that student government does not run into any technical problems. I think that's all I really have to say, and I hope to be a better director of IT than what you've seen before. That's all.
So with that, the floor is open for discussion, starting with Vice Speaker Everhart.
Okay, I just have one fun question because I ask this to everybody. If you were to describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Huh. It would probably be amorphous.
Awesome. All right, with that, I called a question.
Are there any?
Never mind.
You withdraw? Senator Janes.
Yeah, just quick point of information. What is the exact website system that we use, just so I can ask? To Speaker Cecil.
Right now, it's WordPress with an elementary extension, and the university is transitioning to Drupal. So.
Got it. And then I guess the question is, do you have experience with those two programs specifically?
I do have experience with WordPress, but not with Drupal. But, well, as a computer science major, you're really quick at picking up new technologies, and I think that would be pretty easy for me to do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So if that, is there any further discussion? Moved and seconded to end discussion at this time. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, closing comment, Speaker Cecil. One moment. Seeing no closing comments, UC has been called for. Are there any objections to passing this nominee by way of unanimous consent? Seeing no objection, congratulations, the motion carries. And so with that, we'll now move into item 2023-3-009F, funding the Rodeo Club with Senator James.
Yeah, so as Rodeo Club goes up there, I just wanted to say that they went to Finance Committee and we listened to what they said and we are in support of what they have. And if needed, we do have the exact bylaws that describes what events account is. So if asked, I can definitely say them out, but also Finance Director Hurst said and I yielded.
Yeah, and just to add too, we had feedback from some senators that the $30,000 original line item was not sufficient. And so what we did is I reached out to Addie, and we were able to add line item by line item. And just to reiterate too, this is coming from our events account, not our special projects or Senate discretionary, which is bound by our priorities and criteria. And they've requested similar amounts to this in the past.
Yeah. And I'll yield it over to Rodeo Club to describe what this event is.
Yeah, so last week we kind of talked about Stampede is an event that we put on every year. It's under NYRA sanctioned, so we have schools coming from over, 10 schools?
Oh, I don't even know.
Competing.
All over the Midwest.
Over 200 competitors, you would say, probably. We have 3 events, so one Friday night and then a performance Saturday evening and then that night as well. We usually sell out at our night events, so we do all of the normal events that you would see at a rodeo. It is the last student-ran rodeo in the nation, so that is a very important event to highlight, I would say. This is the breakdown, as you can see on the screen, of what our costs are. We just found out actually a couple days ago that our stock contractor fee is going up by $2,000. So that won't really affect what we're asking for. We just kind of wanted to make that known that, as is everything in the world, that cost is going up. So, yeah.
And just to kind of emphasize, so the total cost for the entire rodeo is about $50,000. So we're actually asking for only a fraction of that. And if it weren't for your guys' help funding us, we probably wouldn't be able to put on the rodeo due to how expensive it is to put on. And we use alumni for quite a bit of support, and like the people we hire, like our stock contractor is an Iowa State Rodeo Club alumni from, I think, '84. So we've been around for, I think this will be our 63rd Stampede Rodeo. But, yeah.
So with that, I guess the floor is open for questions, and we're going to start with Speaker Cecil.
I really don't have a question. The rodeo is really fun, and it's one of the cooler things that we get to fund. So I really think this should pass. It's something that we funded a lot in previous years, and you all should go.
It's free to students.
Yeah.
Senator Azan.
So my only question will be, are you guys getting funding from any other organization or departments? And if you don't mind sharing with us.
No, so the only like Iowa State funding we get comes from you guys through the event funding. The rest of the funding is raised either through our team members are required to raise at least $250 of outside sponsorship money, and then just like club dues. We do a couple fundraisers throughout the year, that kind of thing.
With that, I yield.
Senator Eisma.
Just so, what are the dates for the Cyclone Stampede?
Oh.
Just so everyone knows and we can
They're
get it on
the
our
5th and
calendars.
the 6th.
5th and 6th of April at Hanson Agricultural Student Center, so please show up.
The doors will open an hour before the performances,
Yeah.
but they usually sell out.
If
So
you show
wanna
up
come,
10 minutes before, you won't get a seat.
or in for that fact.
Yeah, or in.
So with that, the floor is open for any further discussion at this time. Moved and seconded to end discussion. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, closing comment, Senator James.
Do you guys have anything else to say?
I don't think so.
We want to thank you guys for your guys' continued support on this. Yeah, like Emily said, we wouldn't be able to do this without your guys' support and funding, and yeah.
Got it. Thank you. And
All right, and so with that, seeing as this is a finance bill, we will move into
I move to add Senator Larson to the roll.
move to add Senator Larson to the roll. And thank you very much. It's also, if we can just amend that first motion, if that's fine with you. We're adding Senators Gopa and Larson to the roll. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing none, they shall be sat. Thank you, Senator James. And so with that, again, seeing as this is a finance bill, we will move into a roll call vote. And so I'll give you the option to vote yes, no, or you may abstain. Martinez. Yes. Gopa. Yes. Azan.
Yes.
Everhart. Yes. Atikos. Yes. Halas. Yes. Minshew. Yes. James. Yes. Moisango. Yes. Verriger. Yes. Jones. Yes. Cecil. Yes. Eisma. Yes. Amro. Yes. Momini. Yes. Larson. Yes. Pursley. Yes. And Schneider. Yes. With a vote of 18 to 0 to 0, the motion carries.
Mr. Vice President?
Awesome. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice President?
Yes.
I make a motion to amend the agenda. I motion to have 2023-3-013, 2023-3-018, and 2023-017 to be put at the top of the agenda.
If you give me a moment to find those bills, you said
20
013F,
Yep.
018F, and 017F.
7F.
In that order of 13, 18, 17?
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
All right, so and that was at the top of the agenda, correct?
Yes.
All right, and so it's been moved to immediately consider items 13, 18, and 17 by moving them to the top of the current agenda. Is there a second on that? It's been moved and seconded. Are there any objections to this amendment? Seeing none, it shall be made. And so with that, If I can find the bill, we'll move into item 2023-3-013F, funding the equestrian hunt team, club, with Senator Janes.
The first thing I will say while they come up there is to motion to waive first read. This is due to their event happening, I believe, this weekend, this week, so, yeah.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to waive first read on this item. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, it shall be waived, and we're now back on the motion as second read. Senator Schneider? Sorry. Momini, sorry. It's been moved to remove Senator Momini from the roll. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, she shall be removed. And so if you'd like to talk about your request or your club, this time is yours.
Very often here. We're with the equestrian team, the equestrian club hunt team. So we're the English side of things that do jumping and equitation on the flat. We are not the Western team. We are hosting our regular season IHSA sanctioned show this weekend. For those of you that aren't familiar with IHSA, it's the Intercollegiate Horse Show Association that allows collegiate teams to ride and show and go to the postseason. The way that they do it is catch riding, so the home school that hosts is in charge of supplying all the horses for the home show. No outside schools bring in horses unless we're desperately in need of them. And then it's a catch draw, so basically you pull a name out of the hat and the horse that you pull out is the horse that you get to ride. This is the last regular season show before postseason, so this is the last chance for our riders to qualify for regionals because it's based on a point system, so you need X number of points to qualify for regionals and move on to the rest of the postseason, and each placing is associated with a point, and so our show is the last regular season show to do that before we go to postseason. So with that being said, we're asking for the facility rental, as there's not a place at Iowa State that can host us, so we have to find an external hosting source, as well as a stall rental for the horses because we need them to stay inside and well taken care of over the duration of the weekend as they're not our horses, as well as the jump rental, as that's a big part of our equipment need, again, that Iowa State can't provide us, and then a portion of the horse transportation because as per university policy, we have to provide some sort of mileage fee for any horses coming. And so that's what we've asked for.
All right, and so if that, the floor is open for discussion, starting with Senator Azan.
How many students are using this service so far? How many members?
On the Iowa State team alone, we currently have 25, 30. The entire IHSA governing body has well over 10,000.
I mean, we just concerned about Iowa State student because, it's students' money, so.
Yep.
25?
25 to 30 is
Okay.
now. It varies depending on the semester, as students graduate, study abroad.
Okay, are you?
It's been moved to remove Senator Pursley from the roll. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing none, she shall be removed. And so with that, the floor is open for any further discussion on this bill. Is there a second on that? Sorry? I think I heard it somewhere. It's been moved and seconded to end discussion at this time. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, closing comments, Senator James.
Do you have anything?
All right, seeing no closing comments and seeing as this is a finance bill, on second read, we'll again move into a roll call vote. And so I'll give you the opportunity to vote yes, no, or again, you may abstain. Martinez. Yes. Gopa. Yes. Azan. Everhart. Yes. Atikos. Yes. Halas. Yes. Minshew. Yes. Janes. Yes. Moisango. Yes. Verriger. Yes. Jones. Yes. Cecil. Yes. Eisma. Yes. Amro. Yes. Larson. Yes. And Schneider. So with a vote of 16 to 0 to 1, the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
And so with that, we'll move into item, it looks like 2023-3-017F, funding the Vietnamese Student Association with Senator Janes.
Yeah, I'm going to once again motion to waive first read because the event's happening soon, before the next meeting.
Is there a second on that? Moved and seconded to waive first read. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, first read shall be waived, and we're now back on the motion as a whole on second read.
All right, and then you can explain the event and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm the president of the Vietnamese Student Association. What we mainly do throughout the year is pretty much just advocate and promote the Vietnamese student body here on campus. Considering that there's not many of us, we really want to promote and really push our members out there a bit more. So the event that was mentioned that is coming up on April 27th, and we're going to need some fundings for that, mostly for like the food items that we're going to cater for. That's the main item that we're going to do. We're thinking of just catering from different vendors around Ames, and so that's going to be our biggest expense. But then moving forward, I hope that next year we'll hopefully have some more money to continue this event as this we want to do annually.
All right, and so with that, the floor is open for discussion. Seeing none, is there a call to question? Oh. So if we could make that one motion, okay, so we're taking off Senator Martinez and adding Senator Parsley. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objection, we'll make that change. And so did I hear a call to question in there somewhere? It's been moved. Is there a second on that? Moved and seconded to end debate at this time. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing none, closing comments, Senator Janes.
Do you have anything?
If you want some free food, come check us out.
All right.
It's a pretty good closing comment, all right. So with that, seeing again as this is a finance bill on second read, we'll move into a roll call vote. Yes, no, or abstain. Martinez. Oh, my God. I forgot about that almost immediately. Senator Gopa. Azan. Everhart. Atikos. Halas. Minshew. Janes. Moisango. Verriger. Jones. Cecil. Eisma. Amro. Larson. Persley. And Schneider. With a vote of 17 to 0, the motion carries. Thank you very much. There's been a motion to remove Senator Minshew from the roll. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing none, he shall be removed. So moving directly into item 2023-3-018F, funding the Iowa State University blood drive with Senator Janes.
So as the representative moves up, I once again make a motion to waive first read due to the timing of the event.
There's been a motion to waive first read. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing none, first read shall be waived. We're now back on the motion as a whole on second read.
All right. Motion to...
And a motion to add Senator Martinez back to the roll. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing none, he shall be added.
And then now you can...
Hi, my name is Jack. I'm the treasurer for the Iowa State Blood Drive. So what we are seeking today is $454 for the MU rental of the Great Hall, just right there. We are going to be renting it actually this Monday through Wednesday, March 4th through the 6th. Yeah, I guess the reason for it is we have recently started seeking out student funding. It really helps our budget and being able to afford things that incentivize students to donate blood more often. So, yeah.
All right, and so with that, the floor is open for discussion, starting with Senator Azan.
So I have a question for Dr. Martin. So as far as my understanding, the rental is based on the number of hours. So I cannot see the number of hours that they are asking the rents, or it's not the number of hours they are using.
Yeah, I mean, we can make a motion to amend.
If friendly as a, I
Yeah.
mean.
The friendly would have to be directed towards Senator Janes, since I'm not an author on that.
Okay.
How many hours are you planning on renting out the MU space for?
I have a whole, like a PDF thing. I could be completely wrong, but it would be like 8 to 5 every day, for those 3 days. We have access beforehand and stuff, so I don't know if that, exactly affects how much time we have it rented, but.
But we, can you get that invoice, can you send it to me? Because I
I
know
don't
you
know,
emailed
Kristen
it.
might know.
Yeah, you
Kristen?
can ask the question while we do that.
So I'm just confused. I feel like it will be better if we have the number of hours or the day that they are serving instead of just saying, and then we can reflect the cost. So I don't know who is expert with the numbers, so anyone can take it as a friendly.
So I guess how important are the hours here, since we're just paying for the line item of venue rental? Does that make sense? I think hours is. The cost is based on the number of hours, yeah.
So if they are serving like 10 hours, then multiply that 10 multiplied by that number will reflect the actual number.
Well, that is the total cost of all rental, correct?
Yeah, that is for a full 3 days, along with tables, cords, the MU.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
what
have
it is.
I
That's
have a
not 1
whole-
hour on there, just to clarify any
Yeah,
confusion.
with that, I'm good with that. I just
Okay,
want to make
all right.
sure it's not hour estimated or less estimated.
No, that's a
some
great
sort.
question. Yeah, it's not hours. It's just what the total cost of the venue rental is, which I was just saying.
Yeah, so I guess I should clarify, we already have a whole PDF receipt from the MU rental, and we already have approval to purchase, so not a ton of rush, it'd more just be like a reimbursal type thing, so.
I just want to make sure we are not giving you less profit.
Oh, yeah, no,
You are taking more hours, so I want to double check with that.
Yep.
That I do.
All right, is there a motion, real quick, to add Senator Minshew back to the roll?
Motion to add Senator Minshew to the roll.
All right, it's been moved. Are there any objections? Seeing none, he shall be sat. So with that, are there any further questions or comments? Moved and seconded to end debate. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, closing comments, Senator Janes?
Anything to add?
no, just come donate blood, and if you can't, come volunteer.
All right, and so with that, seeing as this is a finance bill on second read, we'll move into a roll call vote. Again, you may say yes, no, or abstain. Martinez? Yes. Gopa? Yes. Azan?
Yes.
Everhart? Yes. Atikos? Yes. Halas? Yes. Minshew? Janes? Yes. Moisango? Yes. Verriger? Yes. Jones? Yes. Cecil? Yes. Eisma? Yes. Amro? Larson? Yes. Persley? Yes. And Schneider? Yes. With a vote of 17 to 0, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, seeing no further external matters, we'll move into internal matters, starting with General Order 2023-3-002Y, identifying official social media platforms of student government with Speaker Cecil.
Okay, so this bill is kind of tackling a mistake that I made when I was first here. When I was in the Supreme Court, we made an Instagram without talking to PR at all. We just went and did it. And then none of them ever had the passwords. And also with transitions, if we have poor transition documents, passwords might get jumbled or something like that. So this would just make it so PR is required to maintain a full list of what the passwords to all our accounts are, and then on the website have links to those accounts so it's easy for people to find our social media platforms. But the bylaw numbers might not be totally right because they were written off the old bylaws. But those can be adjusted as needed. That's already in the ordered clause there, just saying they should be numbered accordingly.
So with that, the floor is open, starting with Senator Janes.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add is one, do we have it where it's a task given to someone? Or is it because the groups can organize it, it would be kind of impossible for a single individual to be in charge of that.
So this is a task that is given to PR committee as a whole. So it is the responsibility of that committee to maintain this, and it should be delegated however they hope. I didn't want to put too many restrictions on it, just like please keep track of what you're doing kind of thing, just to ensure longevity of those platforms. So.
My only other concern is possibly either, I know it's like a requirement or something, but making it where it's a, because I know some of the officers have emails, making it based on that, just because I've had it in previous clubs, or like have the email recorded, where the member had graduated, and then part of the transition and changing the password or giving ownership is it has that two-factor authentication, and like first year council lost access to our Instagram because the person graduated and we didn't have the email to rely on. So I don't know if that's something we can add to the list, or if that's something that would just be like. All right, well, I guess. I feel like recording the email as well might be beneficial to add.
Is that an amendment or?
I guess. I was just wondering if you think that would be
I mean,
beneficial, like what the regulations are on these things.
That it'd be up to the body, but I feel that could be an internal thing that, like, if we were to set it up on a roll account, like, it's tied to the president's or the vice president's or whoever's roll account, it would be pretty simple to maintain that. But we could add that to say that's a requirement.
All right. I mean, if we think we haven't had a president, then I'm fine with it. I was just bringing it up as a concern, but yeah.
All right. And so with that, the floor is open for any further discussion. There's moved and seconded to end debate at this time. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing none, closing comment, Speaker Cecil. Seeing no closing comments, we'll move into a vote. UC has been called for. Are there any objections to passing this motion by way of unanimous consent? Seeing no objection, the motion carries. We got to clap for that, right? All right, moving next into item 2023-3-003Y, adding the election commissioner as a chief officer with Speaker Cecil.
So this bill came out of a conversation that I had with then Chief Justice Taylor and the current election commissioner, just that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and the election commissioner have a lot of similar responsibilities in the long term and do a lot of work around here. And just the talk of maybe making them a chief officer was brought up, so I felt that I should write a bill and bring it before the body.
So with that, the floor is open, starting with Senator Azan.
I do have two major concerns with the bill making the election commissioner as chief officer. First concern is again about the independent entity. So right now, election commission is an independent entity, and there's a reason that it's independent because of fairness and because of neutrality. And I can see that there's a stance on the bylaws says that it's going to be neutral. But again, we are humans, right? We make mistakes. Nobody is perfect, right? And if that person is allowing to attend the chief officer meetings, there are certain things internally that being discussed in the office, and that can influence the perspective about one candidate over the other. And that's my major concern on that thing. For example, right now, Quinn and Jennifer is running again. This is just an example, but in future, maybe, someone is again running again, and the election commission is attending the internal chief officer meeting, I will have favoritism or biasness in terms of, I see Jennifer is doing great things, and I will develop that biasness eventually, regardless of how, because that's human nature. And you make friends, you make all these things, and that's not easy to control. And it actually kills the whole purpose of being independent and making sure elections are running smoothly and there's no favoritism or biasness by any of the election commissioner member. And that's the reason that we have external, no chief officer right now. Second concern I have regarding the finances. So, and this is again open for discussion for all the senators because that's my opinion and it can be right, can be wrong. The concern with the finances is chief officers get a parking pass, which is like $600, $700, and it's student money. Is it worth enough using student money on that purpose of just providing a parking pass to a member? And elections are happening for like 3-4 months. On top of this, election commissioner, chief officer had to go to different meetings. Like, last time chief officer went to TCU and other meetings, right? So it's gonna increase the cost of adding one more person as a chief officer, which is not worth enough in my point of view, because it can be done by the parties that are pretty much involved in that matter. So with that, I yield, and I'm gonna give my second speaking privilege to President Holliday if she's around. Yes, because she's the president right now, so I wanna get her perspective, what she feels about this, having one more officer, and that will be the second
Point of
privilege.
order, you have to come back around to get a second.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
you do have the ability to yield the remainder of your current speaking privilege if you wish.
I'm gonna yield my current speaking privilege
Okay.
to Jennifer Holliday.
Okay, so we do have to circle back, so Holiday will be added to the bottom of that queue.
Okay, sounds good.
And so with that, we'll move on to Vice Speaker Everhart. What? Sir, if you, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. That's on me. I apologize.
Hi, everybody. So I am not going to say whether you should vote yes or no, but I am going to state my opinions on this bill and some thoughts that I think you all should consider. So chief officers, there are currently 7 of us. There are very many topics that we talk about in the setting of the chief officer room that I do not think that it would be appropriate to include the election commissioner in, for the simple fact of there are times when it will not affect the election commissioner role in the slightest, but there are also times when we're discussing things that could influence how they work with some individuals regarding elections or how they decide to go about elections. And I think we have this separation of powers for a reason. That's something that we've been really trying to work on this year, is making sure we have this separation of powers between these 3 branches. And I have serious concerns about if we do put the election commissioner, no matter who is serving in that role, on the chief officers, that it would decrease the work that we have put towards making sure that we have separation of powers, separation of branches. I think Shane has done an amazing job as election commissioner. This is absolutely nothing against him. I think if we want to make sure that we are having some more communication with the election commissioner, no matter who is in the position, we can absolutely do that. And there are times when it is appropriate for us to invite individuals into the chief officer's meetings so that we can hear their thoughts and bring them into discussions, which we have done and we're going to continue to do. So if there are times when it's appropriate to bring the election commissioner in so we can make sure that everyone's up to date on the subject, we can absolutely do that. But I don't think that having the election commissioner in every single chief officer's meeting is appropriate, nor necessary for them to be able to conducively conduct their role. I think that's all that I have to say at the moment. Otherwise, I think Azan expressed a lot of the other concerns that I had very well. Thank you.
I apologize, Senator Zahn. I misunderstood your yield there for a moment. Now moving over to Vice Speaker Everhart.
Slay. Okay. Yeah, so I guess like the whole purpose of this is kind of slightly building off of what President Holliday had said, is that there are some conversations where we do have to include the election commissioner. And as Cecil said, they function very similarly to the Chief Justice in that they have to be unbiased. And, one of the amendments to this would be that, or one of the, current things on the bill is that the election commissioner would not meet with chief officers when there is an election in progress. So that way it kind of eliminates that bias a little bit more. As far as your financial concerns, I understand that. But especially during election season,
the election commissioner is in this building quite often, as, you know, they're conducting multiple different meetings or, I mean, they're heavily involved whenever election season is going on. I think this is definitely something that, you know, we all need to at least consider, just because, you know, election commission, while they are technically their own separate entity, they are affiliated with student government. So I'm in favor of this bill just because I understand, like, that there are conversations that need to be done or that need to be had with election commissioners to a certain extent. And I mean, as we've said before, if there is even, you know, the slightest bit of bias for certain conversations, then themselves or the election commissioner themselves and the Chief Justice would remove themselves from said meeting. But also, I mean, I see the work that the election commissioner does during election season, and I think that needs to be recognized. So I'm in favor of this. I hope that some of you are too, but I yield.
Senator James.
I guess my stance on this is I am hesitant on it just due to the idea of, while I definitely respect the time they use and I get that, I am hesitant on the bias perspective. And the other thing is if the perspective also is to try to get them the parking pass as a benefit, is there a way we can analyze just the bylaws that speaks about their position and add a parking pass there, if that's one of the things for like concrete benefits of chief officers. And then I yield the rest of my time to Finance Director Hirsch.
Yeah, just to echo what President Holliday said, I'm never going to give my opinion whether you should vote one way for this bill or the other. That's not my place as a cabinet member. I just want to express how I feel on it. I think there's two parts here. One, there's fiscal responsibility, and there's another part, should an outside organization, even though we work very closely with Election Commission, they're its own student organization on campus, would we let any other student organization come to all of our chief officer meetings? I would say no. And again, we saw this during chief officers. We had Andrew Harrington, the editor-in-chief of the Iowa State Daily. He came into one of our meetings and we had a conversation. There is nothing stopping us as chief officers having election commission come in and have real conversations with them. The conversations we typically have in chief officers, I don't think are it doesn't really involve election commissioner. I think, and it's also important too, that there's a separation. I think there's a major reason why it's their own organization and why they're not directly a part of student government. I think it's important that we have those separation of power, absolutely.
Senator Martinez.
Yeah, just want to echo what President Holliday and FD Hirsch said. I think the separation of power is something we should really consider on not breaking here, because I think if we were to go ahead with this, that would go ahead and break that. And then it says that the election commissioner will not meet with chief officers during elections, but it's important to note that the election commissioner will meet with them anytime outside of elections. So I think that leaves room for that bias to build during those meetings. And I guess my question I think it's a simple question for the speaker and vice speaker. This does not change who appoints the election commissioner? So it's still the Chief Justice? Okay, awesome. I yield.
So with that, we'll move over to Speaker Cecil.
I think there's a lot of valid concerns that have been brought up, but the one that I want to touch on is the bias portion. If our election commissioner is not able to remain unbiased in these types of meetings, why are we sure that our Chief Justice is? So if that's the reason that this isn't as valid, I feel like that would bring up a lot more questions on who our chief officers are. But also, failing to maintain a bias, I don't feel is something that would be a problem in a chief officer meeting, because those meetings, in my experience, are not always the most friendly meetings anyways, but they're also more information-based, and if we trust this individual not to maintain a bias while still working, I don't really see the difference in that. But the election commissioner as a whole does a lot of work year-round. And while they are in the system a separate organization, we work with them for their rules, they manage our elections. We are very intertwined as organizations. And while on paper it may be separate, it's not any more separate than any other portion of this government. They are a portion of the judicial branch. That is written into our bylaws. They are essentially a lower court. And so if the election commissioner was made a chief officer, this would function the same as having 2 chief officers from the other 2 branches. It would just be a second one for the judicial branch. And I think there's a lot of value in that because it represents a completely different portion of the judicial branch. And they have very different needs that would be useful to have a conversation in chief officers for. And they'd have the same responsibility to remove themselves from conversations they feel may bias them or have a negative impact on their duties that the Chief Justice currently does. So.
Senator Gopa.
Okay, here's what I think. What does the election commissioner, like the current, what do they want with, why do they want to be on chief officers? Like, there's a question towards Cecil.
So the Election Commission has historically been kind of at odds with Senate. In my time here, Senate has tried to get rid of the Election Commission, kind of. And so there's a lot of conversations that have been had in my short time as a chief officer. I'm sure they happened before then as well, that just made it easier for the Election Commission to understand what their duties were and help make sure that the elections were able to function well. And I think them being in chief officers is of value to them because then those conversations can be had with a lot more ease. It's not a separate meeting. And they can also be a part of some of the bigger conversations that may affect how elections are viewed, how they are participated in, and things like that.
Don't they have access to like meeting minutes and they can meet up with people? Which departments do they need to meet with, like PR or?
It's not specific departments. They just general questions about elections, how they work, how the court works, how things go in there.
Yeah, they could probably ask the Chief Justice about those things too, right?
Yes, and they have.
Okay, yeah, so we really don't need to, here's what I think, yeah, we really don't need to add them on it, like, keep the separation of powers. Also, if they really need a parking pass, there's a commuter part right over there. I think it's $180 per semester. That would be a cheaper bill, a cheaper option, and we could set up another bill. But I do not think the election commissioner should be on chief officers.
Senator Janes.
Okay, the first thing I want to do, which is a little particular, is can I make a motion to amend the bylaw, to amend the bill so it says following in the following and to spell check considered. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what was the first part of that?
So it's the follow bylaw, so it should be following,
Yeah.
and then just to fix the spell check and considered.
So you do have the ability to offer that as a friendly, so
can you-
not necessarily a motion.
Then is it okay you accept that as a friendly?
Yes.
I apologize, I get really distracted by that. And then while he's doing that, oh, I shouldn't wait because the questions are towards him. But I guess maybe also the Supreme Justice could also say, Chief Justice could say this, but is there something specifically in the role for Chief Justice that says that they have to remove themselves if conversation topics come up? And if so, do we have those same preventions for the election commissioner to have that? I don't know, whoever feels comfortable answering.
That is described in their responsibilities, either in the rules of the court or the bylaws. And that provision could be added for the election commissioner. I believe it already is in some form, but it's not specifically stated, I don't think.
Okay. I think that would be something that I would want and possibly then, I don't want to say table, but to have that be more concrete and urge the Rules Committee to then address that and make sure that's written down, that it explicitly says within the election commissioner's position to have to remove themselves during topics to help remove that bias. Because if it's again, you will bring up that thing of the Chief Justice can be in there, but there has to be that equivalent. And then I guess from a historical perspective, do we know why it started as a separate as a separate entity? And what was the logic line there? I know probably, I don't know if I...
As far as I know, it was due to the issuing of P cards for the election process, and mostly a COA thing.
Would this affect it then by having them be a chief officer in our ring? Then affect that availability?
It wouldn't change their organizational status at all. It'd just change who they meet with.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. I yield.
Senator Azan.
So I'm just going to echo what Senator Gopa and Martins and President Holliday and Finance Director, and there are so many other senators too. Sorry, I cannot name all. But the point is, if they have concern about the parking, we can write a separate bill and support that, because they are they want to use MU for X number of hours. And they need a parking space. But it's the cost that we're going to afford, and it's students' money that we are talking. It's not, we just have to be careful about the money that we are spending. Adding one additional officer will increase the money in terms of making trips to universities, assigning certain perks. There are perks, benefits. And that's also one of the reasons that I'm against the bill, because it will just increase the cost overall. And there's a reason that we have the separation of power in the first place, so we just have to respect that. And if there's a lack of communication and someone feel like that we have to get more involved with election commissioner, we can work on that instead of getting involved the election commissioner to all the meetings which are not relevant to elections. That is not necessarily, important. So with that, I yield.
Senator Martinez.
I'd like to yield my time to the Chief Justice.
So hey everyone, just a few notes I want to clarify with everyone. So we haven't had an official opinion from the court on this document or on this topic, but we have discussed it informally in our meetings. So just kind of to go off of that, President Holliday and FD Hirsch said, our roles are not to tell you whether to vote or not vote for any of these documentations. But I will say that since former Chief Justice Taylor has left, we've had multiple conversations about this topic in general. Most justices, I'd say majority, would say that they were not in favor of this topic. Many voiced concerns about specifically the instances that are rising this semester with multiple chief officers running for re-election in these current elections, and that's not something that is not unlikely to happen again. And just having those election commissioner as a chief officer could have conflict with that. The other thing that is voiced that election commission could be there for the meetings, when I could see chief officers needing to talk to election commissioner, I feel like that would be times that would be during election time or during times that election commission is going to be working or processing, and that outline in these bylaws would say that that's when they would not be meeting. So that kind of contradicts to myself as why election commission needs to be there when it's not really a part of them. And then within that, kind of talk about how Senator James had talked about differences between the justice recusing themselves and the election commission. So the election commission actually is a more strict regulation of themselves. Members of the election commission are actually not allowed to vote in the elections compared to where justices and the chief justice is. So that's a big difference on recusing themselves from different situations. And then even more into that, the kind of just differential powers there. Election commission has to do with elections and stuff like that, as of chief justice more is a more judicial body that takes care of making sure constitution, bylaws, and stuff like that that do get discussed in chief officer meetings are taken care of properly and appropriately. With that, I yield.
Senator Larson.
Okay, so I wanted to ask everyone in this room, can you raise your hand if you have talked to Shane Clayton outside of this room, like in the office or like just outside of this room in general?
believe technically it is against procedures to do informal polls in Senate, but.
Well, it's on topic, so I don't think it's germane. But so basically, I don't think that there's going to be a problem with bias when he sees us outside of this room anyways, and he knows a lot of us because he's in the office, we talk to him, and I feel like it's assuming a lot to say that there's going to be a bias there if he attends these meetings, when if there's a problem, I feel like he kind of already knows about it because he talks to a lot of us anyway since we're all in student government together. So there being a bias, I feel like, is just my personal opinion. I feel like if it's going to be there, it's because he already talks to all of us, so he already knows a lot of what's happening.
All right, and so Senator James, I'm sorry, I believe looking at my thing that you have used both of your speaking privileges, unless someone would like to yield one to you. And I believe, unfortunately, the same is true of Azan. And unfortunately, the same is true of Senator Martinez. And so if anyone would like to yield speaking privileges to those two, starting with Senator Moisango.
I would like to yield my speaking time to Senator James.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I apologize. I can't count to two, I guess. I guess beyond the bias question, which I hope, Commissioner Shane, that you don't, I'm not ever questioning any specific person when I say that it's just a general idea. I think it's also like, I think building up with what the Chief Justice said is like, what in these officer meetings would be valuable for the commissioner, and if we can get, I don't want to say an itemized list because that's so pedantic, but if we can get more of a general idea, because you're just saying it's good for them to be informed, but as like Senator Gopa kind of touched upon, it seems like it's stuff that could be reviewed in the minutes, and we had a previous bill to help strengthen that idea of the minutes and make sure those minutes are more accessible and more informational. So that's why, that's my disconnect personally beyond the bias question, is if this is a question of information for the election commissioner, there's other sources for information. We've already done bills to help improve that information, so that's where my my other pain point is. I don't know if that's a question. I yield.
All right, Senator Gopa. Seeing none, Speaker Cecil.
So to touch on the point of what would be valuable, you know, there's a lot of conversations that happen in chief officers that I know certain chief officers feel that not everyone needs to be privy to, but a lot of those affect what the attitude of student government is. And so having a leader of a different portion that is not often involved in the conversation would help to have a general direction that student government goes. It'd have a unifying front on that. But also there's plenty of different situations where having the election commissioner understand the atmosphere and the attitude of the current chief officers or the student government as a whole would be beneficial. And overall, I think it would be a positive to have a little bit more diverse conversation within chief officers about the needs of different areas of student government that are maybe not focused on all the time. But with that, I yield.
Senator Jones.
Yeah, so I guess not to sway either way because I haven't really decided where I stand on this, but just like as a reminder, we're not legislating for ourselves here, but like for everyone as well as the future of the organization. So it doesn't really depend on like how well Shane does his job or how unbiased he may stay or whichever way that goes. It is like also in terms of like the future of the organization, we don't know how like future commissioners will do this or won't do this. And then with that, I'm gonna yield the rest of my time to Senator Martinez. Senator Azan.
Thank you, Senator Sidney Jones. I don't remember the last name most of the time, my bad. So again, and I'm going to echo with just Senator Sidney mentioned, it's not just about Shane, it's about setting the precedent. We don't know in future who's going to be the election commissioner or how's the involvement, interaction with senates and all. So I think it's better to have the separation of power, especially the one that is involved in elections. And if there's any communication that the chief officers thinks that we need to talk about, and most likely it's going to be in the election months. So, and it's not all over the year. It's just 3-4 months. That's pretty much of it. And there's so much that the chief officers talk about, different decision making, different topics, and that is more relevant to someone who is coming from Senate and someone who is, president or vice president or, all these other officers to involve. So with that, I yield and call to questions.
If you would like to withdraw, someone does still have a.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
Senator Tikos.
I withdraw.
All right, everyone. So I suggest that we shall establish another executive body and declare their name as secondary chief officers or something. That way, not only would we give election commissioner a praise for the tremendous work that they consistently do throughout a school year, but also we would keep the separation between the main chief officers and secondary chief officers. These two separate executive bodies could hold joint meetings. At the same time, the main executive body is given a room for them to discuss stuff that could potentially be biased in the case of election commissioner being present, and I yield.
So with that, I'm going to take that as a second. Then it's been moved and seconded to end discussion at this time. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing none, closing comments from Speaker Cecil. Seeing no closing comments, we'll move into a vote on this item, and so I will do this as a roll call vote. You'll be able to vote yes, no, or, of course, you may abstain. Martinez. No. Gopa. No. Everhart. Tikos. No. Halas. Sorry, I'm sorry, what did I hear from Halas? It's a no. I do apologize, Senator Azan.
No.
And Senator Everhart, you moved yourself down. Minshew. Janes. Moisango. Verriger. Jones. Cecil? Eisma? Amro? Larson? Yes. Persley? No. Schneider? So with the exception of those who have moved themselves down, I have hit every senator. Am I correct in that? All right, so then going back down the list, Senator Everhart, Vice Speaker Everhart. I've done that twice tonight. I apologize. Janes. No. Jones. Eisma. And Schneider. So with that, I believe I have called on everyone. If you give me one moment to tally that up. No, okay, fair enough. And so with a vote of 9 to 3 to 5, the motion does not carry. Oh, did I? Yes, excuse me. That's where I'm messing up. Yes, with a vote of 3 to 9 to 5, the motion does not carry. Thank you for bearing with me there. Thank you very much. And so with that, we'll move into item 2023-3-010SG, seating a senator to the Rules Committee with Speaker Cecil.
So if Senator Gopa would like to approach the podium.
Wow, it's been a while since I've been up here. Okay, my name's Ashay Gopa. I'm currently the LAS Senator, for those of you who are new to this organization. I want to join Rules because I think it's in a position for me to do more, and I kind of want to do more for this organization. And if anyone has questions, you can ask me now.
So with that, the floor is open, starting with Vice Speaker Everhart.
I just want to say, Gopa shows up to every single rules meeting, even though he's not on the committee, so he might as well be a voting member. And yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of him coming to rules, so.
Speaker Cecil.
Yeah, I had the same thing to say, but Gopa has already been contributing opinions and has already become a valuable member on rules. This just gives him the right to vote on rules items in the committee. So I think it'd be great if he was added.
So with that, is there any further discussion on this item? Moved and seconded to end discussion. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, hold on a moment. Closing comments, Speaker Cecil. Seeing no closing comments. UC has been called for. Are there any objections to passing this nominee by way of unanimous consent? Seeing no objection, the motion carries. All right, moving then into item 2023-011, or 2023-3-011 SG, seating a senator to the Rules Committee with Speaker Cecil. It's moved to remove Senator Amro from the roll. Are there any objections to doing so? Seeing no objections, they shall be removed. So we're now back on the bill as a whole.
So for this bill, we would have to waive a bylaw, but that is written into the bill to expand rules to have one extra seat for the remainder of the term for Senator Eisma, who I will have walk up to the front. The reason that I want to do this is because I am currently the only one with experience on rules in Rules Committee, and there have been situations where procedures and rules have had to be explained by me, and it'd be really nice if someone with more experience than myself was there, which would be Senator Eisma, as I joined rules after he did. And so bringing in an extra member to help maintain rules and help run rules would be really beneficial. So with that, I'll give it to him.
So, hi everybody. To the newer faces, my name is Colton Eisma. I've been a part of student government for, I've lost track now at this point. I currently serve as the vice chair for the finance committee, a part of a few other committees here and there, and I'm not really sure what to say other than I served an entire year of rules committee last go around. I didn't choose to be a part of it because I wanted newer senators to fill those seats. But then we had a lot of people leave, and I spoke with Cecil, and I'm like, yeah, I should probably rejoin it. I got answers for questions.
So with that, the floor is open, starting with Vice Speaker Everhart.
Again, I'm just going to say I'm in favor of Colton being on rules. He has also gone out of his way to attend rules meetings, whether that's just, sitting in my chair and listening, or actually, voicing his opinions on certain bills. And this just codifies that he would be a voting member. Also, as far as extending it one seat, I know there may be concerns with that, but we did also do that last semester. And this semester we came up with some vacancies. So that's why we have to move to extend it again. With that, I yield.
Senator James.
I feel like I'm going to be the bad guy. I completely support Senator Eisma as being a rule senator in the sense that I think he would be great for the job. I think if the Senate is okay with extending it, my concern with this Senate extending this thing is the precedence for last time was because majority of the Senate was going to be leaving the next term. And we had I think two, or maybe I think it was Wellman at the time was the only senator that was stuck, that was confirmed to stay. And that's the reason we expanded, is to get more people who would be a recurring voice. And so as much as I understand that it would be great for Cecil to have an additional support to explain rules, it's not going for the same reason that we expanded the rules committee in the first place. So that's where I'm like, I don't know how to say this, because I feel like Colton's voice would be really good and it would be nice to have it vote. But like that's where I'm hesitant on expanding it because it's not following the precedent we set, and I don't think the reasoning is as strong. I'm sorry about that.
Senator Azan.
Yeah, I do. I don't want to be the bad guys always, but I don't know. It's sometimes there's technical things, and I do agree with Senator James on this too. I know Isma. He's awesome guy. He's knowledgeable. All these things. But today we are sitting 2 senators in Rules Committee, and we are expanding the seating cap. So I'm concerned on that thing because we have to have more structured way of doing it instead of like, oh, I want to be in rules. Can I sit in the rules? There should be a criteria. There's a reason that we have a cap on the number of senators that can be sit on the rules or other similar to other committees so that they can explore other options, other committees that need more manpower, that need more voices. So that's the only concern that I have, given the reason that we have the precedent of having the cap on the number of senators that should sit on the rules. I think we should not expand that, and we should go with that. With that, I yield.
Speaker Cecil.
So at the time last semester when we did expand, do you have something to say?
That got really loud. If I were to rejoin rules, I would supersede Senator Schneider by, I don't remember what extent. I plan on being a part of it our next go around because might as well stick to it. And I forgot what else I was going to say.
Okay. Last semester when we expanded rules, there was only 2 people that we were aware of were leaving. So that would, if that was stated as the reasoning, I was not at that meeting. That would not be the correct reasoning, just because the people that did end up leaving, we were not aware of at the time. I can go through the list of who we were not aware was going to leave, but the vice speaker was presumed to still be here this semester. He is not. Then at least 3 other members were presumed to still be here, and they chose not to be. So it's not we are out of experience on rules, which has made it more complicated to manage some things. But at the same time, I want enough people that are interested to have the experience. That's why GOPA was added tonight. And I would like to add Colton, because I would love to have the resource on rules to help teach new members. And people that are currently interested that are going to be around for a long time should be on rules to hear that. I'll be graduating next December, so I'm not going to have that much time to share the knowledge. Colton has been here for a while and will be here longer than I will. So there's immense value in him joining the committee. So I yield.
Senator Schneider.
I just wanted to say I'm completely in favor of Colton joining rules, considering the fact that Senator Jones and I are currently the most tenured senators on rules, and we've only been there roughly a semester. We are definitely not planning on having all of our more senior members that were on rules leave. I think it'd be really beneficial to have someone who has Senator Eisema's experience join rules to kind of prepare us for if something like that were to happen again, or as Senator Cecil mentioned, his impending graduation. So with that, I yield.
Senator Gopa.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Hunter. We need the experience. It's kind of, everyone left. We need more people on rules that have the experience. We need, Senator Eisma will definitely help newer senators who are on rules, like me, Roll, Snyder, Jones, be the future Senate. Yeah, we need more experienced people on rules, and adding another seat is not gonna ruin Senate. It's gonna make us better because he obviously is experienced. Please add him. Thank you.
Senator Jones.
To kind of echo what has just been said, I've only been on rules for what feels like a little while, and it really only has been a couple months. And the fact that we are the most tenured senators in rules is a little scary, especially because even though we've been a part of bylaw discussions, I'm not necessarily always super familiar with the bylaws or things that we may be talking about. So having another set of eyes to remind me and others of rules about the bylaws that are in place, maybe how we should change bylaws and the rewrites that we're doing or anything like that, because they've been here longer, they've seen how things have previously worked, what works and what doesn't work. So I think having Colton on rules would benefit all of us, because he really outdoes us all in experience and has previous rules experience as well.
Vice Speaker Everhart.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna kind of echo what everybody has said, but also considering that Colton has rules experience, in the absence of myself or Speaker Cecil, he would become acting Vice Speaker during a Senate meeting, which, you know, in overall sight, that may not be as important, but in the sense that if both of us are gone for a meeting, due to whatever, he would be acting speaker. And there is value in that because he knows the procedures, he knows the rules, he knows the bylaws. That's something that we definitely need to take into consideration. Yeah, I mean, with that, I yield.
Senator James.
Yeah, so I appreciate the clarification, Senator Cecil. I must have misremembered because I thought that's what then Speaker Hackbarth said for the reasoning and what Senator Wellman was emphasizing. But yeah, I do see the value in having an older member. I know in Finance Committee, there's been a lot of times, and I don't know, I can't speak on Finance Committee, but where he's brought in very significant historical information that was good for it. Like, for example, Rodeo Club, we had a debate that happened, and he was able to bring in experience of past scenes of Rodeo Club that none of us had because we were within the year. And I think there is value of having an older member that isn't a chief officer. I just misremembered what the previous precedence was, so I would be of supporting this.
Senator Azan.
I'm in favor of supporting ISMA, but it's just we want to have to be careful in terms of structural or making exception all the time, because there's a reason for this. You know, certain things are being placed, and we can work on that more to make sure we are not making exceptions all the time. Because we do have limited time left. It's 3 weeks, 2 weeks. I mean, you're running again, right? As a senator, so he can join again later on too. It's nothing crazy if the Senate decide not to appoint, and make an exception in the bylaws and waive the rules, because just 2 weeks. But again, if the Senate approves, I'm totally fine with that. So I'm going to abstain on this. With that, I yield.
So with that, the floor is open for any further discussion. Moved and seconded to end discussion. Are there any objections to doing so at this time? Seeing no objections, closing comments, Speaker Cecil. Seeing no closing comments, UC has been called for. Are there objections? UC has been objected to, and so we're going to move into, unless there are strong feelings about a roll call vote, we'll do a placard vote. And so once again, you can say yes, no. Okay, it's been requested for a roll call vote. So the same procedure applies here as all the other ones we've done tonight, starting with Senator Martinez. Gopa. Yes. Azan. Everhart. Yes. Atikos. Yes. Halas. Yes. Minshew. Yes. James. Yes. Waisango. Yes. Verriger. Yes. Jones. Yes. Cecil. Yes. Eisma.
Move me down.
Larson? Yes. Pursley? Yes. Schneider? Yes. Back to Eisma.
Abstain?
Yes, you may in fact do that. All right. So with a vote of 14 to 0 to 2, the motion carries.
Perfect. I thought it'd look bad if I would say no.
And so with that, we'll move on to our new business items for this evening, starting with item 2023-3-010F, funding for an in-body composition analysis machine with Senator Gopa.
I am so glad to talk about this machine after, how many hours has it been? 2.5 hours. So the state was, Iowa State Recreation Services recently bought the in-body 570 body composition analyzer. So this is a cool machine that analyzes your muscle, fat, and water content in your body. It's nice technology. I'm gonna send you guys over a link to look at it. It takes 10 minutes to figure out what's the baseline for your body in terms of muscle, fat, and water content. And I initially did this for selfish reasons where I wanted to use it, but then I surveyed 100 people on campus and found out that 92% of them would like to use this machine. Currently, it takes $15 to use this machine for the testing, but state rec services didn't want people to pay for it, and paying for this machine would let students use it for free. Yeah, I talked to rec services director Tony Dirt, and he seemed all for it, and he wants to put a sticker, do some marketing with student government to help and market the machine more often. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
So with that, the floor is open for questions of intent, starting with Senator Azan.
Did you get this number by talking to someone from State Gym or ISU Rec?
Yes.
Senator Janes.
So is this purchasing the machine that's already been purchased?
Yes.
Senator Minshew.
So you said about 92 people would like that. What's like the need for it? If there's already one here?
These are yes or no questions.
I do apologize, just for context, new business items are yes or no questions of intent, so sorry I didn't prefix with that.
Never mind. I don't got a question.
All right, Senator Larson.
Sorry, so I'm going to rephrase what she said. Is this purchasing a new machine or paying for students to use the machine that's already on campus? Like,
I'm sorry, could that be phrased as a yes
Yeah,
or no
so-
question?
is this a new machine or for the machine that's already on campus?
I'm sorry, I still don't believe that's a yes or no question.
It's-
I apologize.
Purchasing a subscription to use the machine, I think, would answer, right?
Yeah, yeah, are we, yeah, sure, are we?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we got there, Senator Martinez.
Okay.
Wait, now let me think about it.
Okay, Eisma.
So did the ISU Rec, they are charging students because they want to make up the funds that they had to spend to purchase this?
Yes.
Because otherwise, can I ask another one? Or
Unfortunately not. I apologize for that. Yes, that could be. Someone who has not already used, unfortunately, their one question of intent. So we're going to get there. I'm sorry. We're going down. Senator Eisman, did you not wish to? All right. Vice Speaker Everhart.
Is this to pay for students to use this service rather, yeah. Is this to pay for students to use the service that already exists?
Yes.
Speaker, nope. All right. Senator Moisango.
I yield my time to Senator James.
Can't count to one either. So I guess, I'm trying to think how to word this question. Will the purchase of this amount fully pay off the machine?
Yes.
Senator Eisma.
Will we help make this machine more known to students who would like to utilize this machine?
Yes.
So with that, are there any further questions of intent on this item? Senator Verriger.
Is there any chance that this machine could be used for educational purposes outside of recreation?
Yes.
All right, and so with that, are there any further questions of intent? Seeing no further questions, we'll see this item next week to vote on, and we'll now move into item 2023-3-014F, funding the men's rugby club with Senator Janes.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So it's just registration for a competition they're going to. I'm open to any questions.
So with that, the floor is open for questions of intent.
Funding men's rugby.
So seeing no questions of intent, we'll again see this item next week. Moving on to item 2023-3-015F, funding the Indonesian Student Association with Senator Janes.
So this is just a bill to help fund them. We did the mileage and everything, and it works out. I'm open to any questions.
Once again, the floor is open. Senator Azan.
So this amount was not incorporated in annual allocation?
I don't know. I can give you that information after.
So with that, are there any further questions of intent? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 2023-3-016F, funding the Indian Students Association with Senator Janes.
Yeah, so I understand that it looks a little scary with the 10,000. We have not seen them yet, but we will see them come this upcoming finance committee. If there's any questions, feel free to ask.
Floor is open. Senator Azan.
Are you planning to add the line items on the bill?
Yes, when we get that information.
Senator Gopa.
You're meeting with them next week with their newly elected council with no experience. Are you meeting with them next week?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So with that, are there any further questions of intent? Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to item 2023-3-011F, funding block and bridal attendance for the National Convention with Senator Janes.
Yeah. Once again, we will be helping pay, and it is following PNC. Any questions?
Floor is open. Seeing no questions of intent, we'll move on to our final business item for this evening, funding, item 2023-3-012F, funding the Iranian Students and Scholars Association's New Year's celebration with Senator Janes.
Once again, we will be seeing them come this upcoming finance committee meeting, and we will, if we can, get the line items in there.
Floor is open, starting with Senator Azan.
Are you getting this 12,000, whatever the number is, straight away from the club, or did you have the discussion to talk about the number? Did you have a discussion to talk about the number yet or no?
No.
Okay. Are you?
So with that, are there any further questions of intent? Seeing none, this bill will again return next week, and so we've now completed our docket for this evening. The floor is open for any general closing announcements, starting with Senator Janes.
Apologies if this gets too much, but when it comes to finance committee, we put a bill, it is relatively normal for a bill to go through first read before it comes to Finance Committee. So if there's that confusion for why we haven't heard it, that is a norm for Finance Committee.
All right, moving over to Vice Speaker Everhart.
I still want my speaking privileges, but I'm going to yield some time to Vice Election Commissioner Anthony.
Hello. Please email Shane if you would like to volunteer for the in-person polling stations that will be happening on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. The locations are going to be UDCC, Parks, Convos, and MU. He will have you fill out an agreement form and sign up on a Google Doc. And returning senators, please remember to complete your 2 outreach credits and submit your final revenue expenditure, which is due this Friday. If you didn't spend any money, just put 0 and then submit that in. And to remind you, voting begins Tuesday, March 5th. And to give you more of a reason to even vote, if you show proof that you voted, you get a free cookie from Insomnia. If you have any questions or anything, I am available after the meeting, so you can come talk to me.
All right, moving over to Senator Gopa.
What was I gonna say? Okay, yeah, guys, we gotta start doing more projects. Like, we need to do more. I'm telling each and every one of you, you. Everyone has to start thinking about doing projects. You all came into here with a couple goals onto mind. Like, I heard a couple things about increasing PR about student government because lots of people don't know what we do. Start working on projects. It'd be great. If you need help, Cecil's in the office. Everhart's in the office. I will try to help you, but those guys, their whole job here is to help you with your projects. Please do a project. I will talk to each and every one of you to start a project. I know everyone came in with ideas, and you have the resources. We have a full cabinet. If you have a health and wellness project, Anna Spahn is very happy to start one. She looked at my project today, and I was like, that's really cool. You have a cabinet to back you up. You got the vice president, you got the president, and you got the finance director to figure out how your project will go. Set up meetings with them. You have access to every single administrator on campus. Like, you can email anyone, and they might as well have to respond to you because you'll have 15 other people who respond for you. Please start a project for the love of God. Yes, yeah, just start a project. I will talk to you if you haven't even thought about starting one. And do the blood drive. And yeah, well, because you get a cookie.
Well put. All right, moving over to Senator Larson.
Hello. So some of you may know it's Everhart and myself's birthday on Saturday, and I am going to be having a party. It's going to be very school appropriate. And you are all invited, so if you want a little more information, I will try sending it around in some unofficial chats. So.
All right, Senator is on.
I do have a point of clarification from Vice Election Commissioner. So you mentioned about the cookies. Is it just for the in-person voting, or any email voting will work too? Just walk in and get the cookies if you show the proof?
I think we said if someone's walking by, the voting, it'll only allow you to do the survey once. So if you pulled it up on your phone and it said you've already done this survey, I think we'd give you a cookie. Also stickers.
So the emails work too. So it's not necessarily the in-person voting.
I don't know if you'll get an email that says thanks for voting. I don't think it's set to send that, but you should be able to try to access the Qualtrics again, and it'll just say you've already done this or something.
And there's a cap as well? There's a cap of the number of cookies?
Yes, we have 500 cookies each day.
500. Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
Senator Pursley.
Okay, the registration for One Sustainable Iowa is coming out on Friday. Look in your email. There's going to be a mass email sent out on Friday to everyone to sign up. Please go. Sustainability Committee has been working really hard on it.
Right, and so with that, are there any further general closing announcements? Seeing none, I don't think I have anything meaningful to contribute that hasn't already been covered, and so I'll yield to the Vice Speaker.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot for you guys.
Actually, I really don't have anything. The only reason I wanted my speaking privileges again is because we have another birthday in the room today. Our Vice Commissioner, Tatum, it's her birthday, so I think we should all sing her happy birthday. So I'll get us started. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tatum. Happy birthday to you. Thanks, guys. With that, I yield to Speaker Cecil.
I really don't have much. I thought we had really good conversation today. It made me happy, even though my bill failed. Like, it made me happy. So yeah, I just wanted to say thanks because that was fun. With that, move to adjourn.
Go Cyclones, we are adjourned.